Well, first of all, thank you so much. What a great job you and Amani have been doing through the last couple of days, getting everybody excited and keeping everybody engaged. I'm gonna do a little thing first. We made one of the biggest announcements we've made as a public company this morning. We announced that major partnership with Snowflake, who is one of the most important technology companies in the world today. To me, it took us, I don't know, 2 years to get to this point with Snowflake. We're gonna be fully integrating our tech stacks together, and we're gonna go to market jointly to help marketers get real-time data in some of the world's most amazing clean rooms with our technology sitting on top of it and the client's first-party data and our first-party data merging together. I know we're doing a video right after Chris Momberg and Steve Gerber with the Snowflake guys. So that'll be really, I think, informative. But as CEO of the company, I know how long it took us to get to this point. And, you know, for us, it's first of all to get somebody like Snowflake with their brand to say that we are worthy of being fully integrated in one of their joint partners is a big deal. And the other is to get access to their clients and our clients. So I think it's going to be a really exciting partnership. Now that the infomercial is done, we'll move to Tarek El Moussa. Tarek, first of all, you know, the story about how we met is one of my favorite stories, where we ended up at a dinner together, and I asked you what you do at dinner, and you sort of laughed at me. But last night we were at a very big dinner, and my partner John Scully, CEO of Apple, CEO of Pepsi, one of the titans of American business. Feature movies have been made about him. Was like a fanboy at your feet. He's literally like, Tarek is here? I watch Flipper Flop every day.
Yeah.
So first of all, it's incredible. But when you think about the creativity and you think about transforming dilapidated, older homes, helping people to learn business, you're really, the way I see it, you're helping people to learn the business of house development. You know, you call it flipping today from a vernacular perspective, but it's really redevelopment. And you're changing their lives. Like, how does that process work for you?
You know, well, Flipper Flop, I'm flipping my own houses, and Flipping 101 is where I'm teaching rookie flippers. So for me...
So I already screwed that up.
Yeah, no, that's totally fine. So, you know, we'll talk about the first date again, you know, that was fun. So for me, I mean, I started off in this business as a 20-year-old kid. I was so lost, making no money, and 6 months in, I found a real estate coach. And shortly after finding that real estate coach, my life changed. At the time, I was living in my mom's garage. In less than 6 months, I moved from her garage, I bought $1 million house, and I said, I'm a genius, I made it, right? And the reason I was able to do that is because I had all this energy, excitement, and motivation, right? But I tell people, you can be the most excited person in the world, but if you don't know what to do, you're just never going to do it. So for me, my passion today is really coaching people and teaching people how to better their lives through real estate.
And by the way, I think if you ask any successful entrepreneur or almost any successful manager, it begins with the ability to recruit, train, manage, and empower exceptional people, right? How do you guys select, or how do you select the people that you're going to coach? And how do you help them be the best they can be?
Great question. So on the TV show, Flipping 101, they go through a casting process with the production company. So I don't actually get to meet them until day one at the project. And then within the first 10 minutes of meeting my students on the show, I know if they're going to make it or not, just based on the answers. When it comes to the general public, you know, we're just looking to build a tribe of motivated, excited people that want to change their lives. And I always tell people, you know, getting into real estate is not just about flipping houses. It's about changing who you are and really giving yourself the opportunity to get more out of life. And I feel like there's no barrier to entry in getting into real estate investing. And I feel like if more people knew they could do it, they would do it and their lives would change.
Well, it's funny you say that. You know, they've done study after study of entrepreneurs. And they find that the single biggest determination in whether somebody becomes an entrepreneur or not is, are they one concentric circle away, relationship-wise, from another entrepreneur? Most people don't understand what the world of possible is until they see the world of possible. And Tarek, listen, to meet you, the energy, the passion, all of that comes through. When you think of your creative process, so now let's jump over to the show where you buy your own homes, you fix them up. When you see this dilapidated house, or you see this older home, tell me about how your brain sees it, and then what's that creative process start with and evolve with?
Got it. So today, my creative process is really based on experience. Like, I'm a guy that learns everything through trial and error. So when I was first designing houses, I had beige floors, beige walls, beige cabinets, beige counters. I knew beige was neutral. And as time went on, I got more experience. And that's what I tell people about anything in life. The more experience you have, the better you're going to do. So now, when I walk into a house, within 10 minutes, I know what the floor plan is going to be. I know what the design is going to be. And that doesn't really come from the creative side. Well, I guess it would be the creative side of me, but it just comes from the experience of doing it hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times.
Well, and that goes to the other side of you that I think I've been able to see that a lot of people do not, which is your analytical side. So behind that passion and excitement and all of that creativity, I know you understand the math. Like, you really think about that. When you come at a project, and you might have just answered the question, but when you come at a project, how much of it is, this is the canvas I have to work with, versus this is what I think people will buy at a premium so that I can make the maximum return on investment possible?
Yeah, so it's actually a fine line when you're making decisions about your houses. And all of you out there, if you have houses and you've remodeled your house, you know how stressful it can be. And as an investor, I have over-improved houses. I'm guilty of it. I get my emotions involved, and everybody does it. But here's what I do. I put myself in the buyer's shoes. So every decision I make, I put myself as a buyer, and I ask myself, if I was a buyer and there was not wallpaper on that wall, would I not buy this house? Well, typically, the answer is I'd still buy the house if there wasn't wallpaper, so I'm not going to spend the money on the wallpaper. On the flip side of that, no pun intended, if it's a
You've never said that before.
if it's a 4-bedroom, 1-bathroom house, well, I ask myself, if I was a buyer, would I buy this 4-1 if it was remodeled, or would I buy this 4-3 that was decent? Well, as a buyer, I'd probably buy the 4-3 because I'd want the extra bathrooms. So I always try to think like the buyer.
And a lot of that comes down to sort of expectations, right? So at Zeta, at the absolute heart of what we do is it's about personalization. How do we help corporations get to consumers who are really interested in their products and services? When you think about personalization in your business, does it even come into play, or is it just you're doing it to maximize the return?
Every decision is to maximize the return, but I do like adding a sizzle feature in every house. So you might see a fire pit that doesn't have to be there that I wanted there, or you might see some wallpaper that I didn't have to do but I wanted there. So on every house I do, I like to put a little Tarek Moussa stamp.
Which I like that, a Tarek Moussa stamp. Have you ever gone too far? You ever make a place so amazing that it was like, I want this, but then it was sort of like, people were like, I don't know if I can afford this.
I have over-improved. Yes, I have. And
tell us a story about that.
Over-improving story. Well, okay, so I did this house in Whittier, California, and I had this vision of walking up this beautiful driveway. It was the first higher-end house we ever did. And I wanted these huge wrought iron doors, and I was so obsessed with these doors that I think the entire construction cost was like $150,000. And this was a big house. This was a long time ago. And I ended up spending, I think, $18,000 on these huge wrought iron doors. I love the doors. To this day, I still love the doors, but I'm pretty sure I could have put in.
Do you still own the home?
I don't own the home. See, so that's the thing as
I'm
an
joking.
investor. No, that's a great point, though.
Right.
I don't own the home, so I shouldn't have put those doors in. I should have spent $2,000 and kept 16.
But you have the gates to heaven.
Yes, I do.
So when you think about your evolution, right? So you started in many ways as an incredibly disadvantaged young man. You worked really hard and you understood early what your profession could do for you, right? when you think back to those days, what was the first big aha moment when you transitioned from sort of living in your mom's basement, or garage, I apologize, to the beginnings of what you saw could be a really, really stable and what has become very defining career?
Okay, I'll give you my first real estate agent defining moment. There's something called expired listings with real estate, which if you've ever sold a house and the realtor doesn't get it sold at the end of the contract, it shows up on the computer as an expired listing, which means a new agent can go solicit. And like I said, you can be hungry, motivated, but if you don't know what to do, you're never going to do anything with it. So for 6 months, I'm sitting there waiting for the phone to ring. I'm holding open houses. Nothing's happening. I hire this coach, and he tells me, go after these expired listings. And I'm like, well, where do you get those? So he literally sends me a list. And I'm like, I can just call people? So I just turned into a machine, and I started calling people from 7:45 in the morning until 8:45 at night, 6 days a week. And my first month...
What'd you do on the 7th?
On the 7th?
I'm joking. Keep going. Keep going.
I'm a little slow today. Sorry. Someone kept me out late last night.
Somebody had to. All right.
All right. So where was I going with this story?
Expired listings. Heather's here.
I say honey's here. Expired listings. So all of a sudden, I went from being broke, literally living in my mom's garage. I was 20 years old. My parents got divorced. She rented out my bedroom. I mean, there was cockroaches and spider webs. My dirt bike was in there. We had spray paint. Like, it was a garage, you guys. And these expired listings, within, I think it was 120 days, I made enough money for a down payment and to qualify for a loan to buy a $1 million house right around my 21st birthday. So my first defining moment was I needed help. And because of the help I got, I was able to find success. So then I realized, well, wait a minute. I need to start talking to more people. I need to meet more people. I need to learn more things. So my eyes were never opened. You know, I grew up in Buena Park, California. My dream was to own my own car and own my own house. And all of a sudden, I get into real estate, and I saw people driving Mercedes and BMWs, and my eyes were wide open. And that's when I started seeing opportunity.
That's interesting. Once again, you start to feel the success. It becomes self-propelling, right?
Goldfish bowl.
Exactly. Every goldfish, I told you this story, every goldfish, if it's a 1/2 inch goldfish, lives in a 5-gallon tank. You put that exact same goldfish into a 10-gallon tank, it'll grow to a full inch. That exact same goldfish in a 20-gallon tank will grow to 2 inches, and so on and so forth. I often say humans are the same. When they feel the realm of possible is when expansion can happen. Talking about expansion, you started obviously mom's garage. You moved, and your mom's a lovely woman, but I wouldn't want to live in her garage. You moved into real estate. You started with expired listings. You've now really expanded out of real estate, right? So when you think about the business that you've built today, right? You have an education division. You have a division of your business which owns, I don't know how many homes and rents them out as a professional business. You have a business that buys buildings and syndicates the ownership. All of that sort of comes in through what began with what was your TV personality brand, right? How did that start? Like, how do you go from like being a guy on TV to being a guy who's like, this is not gonna get me where I wanna go, so I better start doing some other stuff?
All right, well, I figured that out a few years into TV, but want me to tell the story how I got on TV?
Even better, yeah.
Even better.
Why
All right.
answer the question I asked?
So here's probably the most interesting thing about me is I pitched the idea of the most famous house flipping show in the world, Flip or Flop, before I ever flipped a house. So just, I did it completely backwards. And I was at a real estate convention in Las Vegas. This was 2010, and I met a guy who had a local TV show. And he was telling me how he'd go to the grocery store and people would recognize him. And I was like, well, I mean, it's neat to be famous, but do you make any money? And he goes, well, yeah, of course I make money. They see me, they recognize me, and then they work with me. So at the time, you know, I was like, TV. So the next day, I leave Las Vegas, talking to my ex-wife at the time. I was like, that Brady guy is on TV. We got to get on TV. We got to get on TV. She's like, you're crazy. What are we going to do on TV? No, nobody wants to hear from us. And then it hit me. That exact week, we had just bought our first flip. And I said, well, what if we flip houses on TV? So literally, 30 seconds later, I'm on Google Hollywood production companies. Like literally Google Hollywood production companies. And I just started sending pictures and reasons why there should be a flipping show. And this is like 10 o'clock at night, a couple Miller Lights deep. So I wake up the next morning, and I get a response from a company called Pytown Productions. They're like, we like your look, we like your story, send us a home video. So shot the home video. It came out really, really great. I electrocuted myself.
That explains a lot.
Yeah, I know. Oh, here's another thing. If you guys have ever remodeled your house, so I bought this kit to acid wash the shower, and I read the instructions careful because there were skulls and crossbones on the box. I mean, this is serious stuff. So it said you had to wear the gloves. I put the gloves on. I follow the instructions to the T. I take my sandals off. I hop in the shower, and I start acid washing the walls. And then all of a sudden, my feet started tingling a little bit. And next thing I know, my feet are on fire. I jump out of the shower. I put my feet in the bathtub. I turn the water on. But guess what? The idiot that owned the condo turned the water off. So I'm screaming.
So now the acid is eating through the bottom of your feet.
Yes.
Excellent.
Hey, on the box it said nothing about shoes. It gave me gloves. I just want to put that out there. I followed the instructions. So I run across the yard. I jump in the community pool. And
then everybody who swims later that day dies, but keep going.
Yeah. Well, there's chlorine in the water. Chlorine kills everything. Okay, look at it. See, I go on tangents too. That's the
So you jumped in the pool.
I jumped in the pool, but how did I get to that point in my story? Do you guys remember?
None of us even know.
I don't know either. Yeah, see,
You were talking about how you got on TV.
Oh, how I got a TV. So electrocuted myself, painted the baseboards to the floor, burned my feet with acid, and they loved the home video. They thought this guy is hilarious. I said, it wasn't on purpose. And so they sent out, the production company sent a professional crew for a 2-day shoot. We did it, shot a sizzle video for 5 minutes. It went out to all the production companies. We got no bites, nobody wanted it. I was like, bummer, didn't work. 10 months later, get a call. I'm on Black Gold Golf Course in Yorba Linda, California. And it's the production company say, you're not gonna believe this. I was like, what? HGTV wants to do a pilot. And I'm like, no way. And you gotta remember, this is after the real estate market crashed. I'm poor. I'm going to Subway stealing lemonade, splitting $5 footlongs, true story. So I get the call, so I'm like, let's do it. So we do the pilot episode, which is the first 30-minute episode. And they're like, there's like a 5% chance it'll make it. If it does, it's gonna take years. We finish the pilot. 2 weeks later, I get a contract to do 13 episodes in 10 months of a house flipping TV show. 2 problems. 1, I didn't know how to flip houses, okay? True. Problem number 2, well, I had no money. So I asked my ex-wife at the time, I said, well, what's the worst that can happen? She goes, well, they could sue us. And I looked back at the rented apartment and the finance couch, and I said, they could have it. I was actually just signing away. So I pulled it off, guys, and I pulled it off because I just put my head down and I refused to fail. I was working, and I'm not kidding when I say this, that first year, 18 to 20-hour days. So I'd work in the morning, I'd film all day, and then I had to buy houses at the auction. And the houses I bought had to be vacant because for the TV show, we didn't have 3 months to evict people. So I would leave my house every night from 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. and drive by all the properties that were going to the auction the next day. And that's what I did. And because I did that, I found some investors, and we built a company.
It's interesting. So Tarek, I don't know if you know how much you have in common with another entrepreneur named Bill Gates. When Bill Gates first pitched IBM on the first product that Microsoft ever rolled out, it was called Disk Operating System. Most of you know it as DOS. But, see what I did there?
I saw you.
But literally, he didn't own the rights to a system to help IBM build personal computers. So he went out and he found a guy who had this platform, and he borrowed the money to buy it from them, having already sold IBM Disk Operating System. He had to buy it from the guy who'd actually built it, and that became the beginning of what is, of course, I think today, it goes back and forth, but the most valuable company on the planet. To pivot just for a second, let's talk just for a little bit about how you expanded from TV into building the education business, the home investment business, and the building acquisition platform. What was the first sort of catalyst in the leap from television personality. Well, I mean, let's start with in your mother's garage. We now understand burning your feet, jumping in the thing, electrocuting yourself, 12 months to getting the pilot, borrowing money to do the houses, driving by the houses to see if lights were on to make sure nobody was home. Next day, bidding on the houses you knew that wouldn't have somebody in the home. Now we're going to jump forward a few years. You've been successful on TV. You've been running that. The first person you ever met said to you, yeah, I go on TV and then they want to work with me. Obviously, that idea had to germinate for a while or sort of grow in your mind for a while. As you moved into being a businessman versus a TV personality, how was that evolution for you?
So when I first got on TV, if you guys have seen the show, I wore a uniform, black cargo shorts, black sandals, and black t-shirts every single scene of every single day, so I never had to change because I was so stressed out about work. But for me, there was two things that really changed my life. One was getting a coach, someone teach me what to do. The other thing that changed my life was real estate. It gave me money. It gave me a life. I was able to pay my bills and buy a car and buy a house. So I've just had this dream of sharing everything I know about real estate and not only coaching people on how to do it themselves, but also teaching people that they need to invest in real estate. So I'm passionate about coaching people and doing it and partnering with people to buy buildings. And that's why I created the fund, because over all these years, people always ask me, like, Tarek, how do we partner with you? How do we invest with you? And there was never a way. And now with my fund, they can actually partner with me on these deals. So we're going to be hitting that super hard in 2022.
And what was the first sort of catalyst, right? So was it first buying the home, say, okay, this one's really a find, right? Let's keep it and let's rent it out? Or was it the education business? Which sort of came first for you?
Sure. The first, it was flipping houses, right? So I was flipping houses to make money to pay my bills. And then what I realized is, well, wait a minute, these houses are valuable. So I said, instead of flipping all the houses, well, I should start keeping some. And today, across the country, I own I think it's about 132 houses now. It's pretty well, and that's all our own capital.
Even Heather can't live in that many. I mean, you gotta rent them out.
We will try, honey, I promise.
I like more expensive.
Yeah, we gotta try working on that too.
All right, keep going.
Where was I? What was I saying?
132 homes.
Oh, 132 homes. So I decided to start buying properties as rentals. And again, this is buying houses with my own money. And then I got to the point where I said, well, I'm making great returns. Well, I want to help other people do the same. So then I had the idea to create a fund to raise capital to buy value-add apartment buildings. So the apartment buildings we buy, they're not the luxurious, A-class style apartment buildings. These are the apartment buildings that might need a little bit of work, that might need an upgrade in tenants. So we go in there, we fix them up just like a house, we raise the rents, and we increase the value.
Well, the other thing you do, which is really interesting, is you're starting to build out your brand as it's associated with these buildings, right? So people, when they see this brand, they know that you were the creative juices that fixed up these units, and they can tell their friends, I live in a Tarek Moussa building, right? What was the first thoughts there?
So we had to come up with a brand name for the actual buildings, and the name we came up with was The Element. I just love the name The Element. It reminds me of snowboarding when I was 20 years old. So, we're branding the buildings as The Element.
But it's capital E, right? Like for El Moussa?
Yeah. E for El Moussa. We went over this over lunch in Long Beach a couple months ago. So the plan there is to brand The Element across the country and really push our tenants and push our investors to utilize, in my opinion, the most important platforms today, which is social media, to hashtag the buildings, to share your content, to brag about where you live, to brag about who you invested with, to brag about who your partner is. And it just creates this viral effect.
So, which leads me to a question that I've always been just blown away by you and Heather. Your social media presence is just amazing, right? So between the two of you, millions of fans on social media. We've got, right now, thousands of marketers listening in. What advice can you give to a marketer who's trying to build their brand as it relates to social media and the evolution of branding as it relates to social media?
You know, if you go look at my,
Excuse me.
if you look at my Instagram page today, my very first 5 posts, they're probably still there. You guys are gonna laugh. I didn't know what a hashtag was. I just hashtag every single word. And you know, today I have millions of followers across the platform, and here's what I figured out. I gotta treat my social media like a business, and I have to be professional about it. So I just try to do the best with everything I do, meaning make sure it has the best editing on the photo. Make sure it's the best photo. Make sure you're using the right hashtags. Make sure you're consistent.
What are the right hashtags? Even for a lot of us, you know, like I'm an older guy. My kids laugh at me. They say that I talk when I do the video, or I'm not hashing it right, or I do, how do you know what are the right hashtags for your posts as you're trying to build your brand?
Well, today I mostly ask Julia right here, but before Julia, you know, I'll do an investment post, right? So it would be entrepreneur tips. And what's interesting about Instagram, if you put in a hashtag and just write the word entrepreneur, it's going to give you all the options of the most popular hashtags that consider entrepreneur.
So those words that pop up, that I always wonder why is that particular word popping up, are based on the popularity of that hash.
Yes.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Keep going.
I'll keep going. So best photos, best videos, best captions. You want to ask your audience questions. You want them to engage. And most importantly, if you look at my page, I like to have fun. So we try to have fun with it.
You also, interestingly enough, seem to respond to far more comments than I would generally expect. Does that help the algorithm to push you, or are you just doing that because you're a super nice guy with lots of free time?
Okay, well, a little bit of both. So in order to build my accounts.
Good answer, by the way.
A little bit of both. So when I was first building my accounts, no joke, and I'm busy, I'm in between scenes filming my shows, where I'm like seriously responding to people on Instagram. And the reason I did that is because I wanted to build a relationship. I wanted them to think, wow, he wrote me back. Wow, he knows me. Wow, he's my friend. And the truth is, I've been messaging so many of my fans from all around the world over the years. When I see their name, I know who they are. So I feel like we know each other.
That's cool. It's funny because my wife really, who's here with Heather, makes fun of my social posts all the time. Like I spell things wrong, I don't use the right hash words. But when you think about it, it really is, it's become among the most important platforms to build your brand as it relates to who you are. We're gonna switch topics really quickly, and we're gonna move over to some of the ups and downs you've had as a human. Because what I think a lot of people forget when you sit down with, you know, yesterday I sat down with Michael Rubin, one of the most successful businessmen in the world, and quite frankly, one of the reasons I admire Michael so much is what an incredible father he is and what an incredible friend he is. With you, not only are you an incredible father and an incredible friend, you had a very serious bout that you've been very public about with cancer. Tell me first and foremost, like, when did you first hear you had cancer, and what was the first sort of thought you had in that room? Because I always think like you're in a doctor's office, the doctor looks at you and says you've got cancer, and you're sort of gonna be like, oh.
Yeah, so actually 2 different cancers, and I found out in 2 of the weirdest ways. So I'll tell you the story. 2013, there was a registered nurse out of Texas watching my show. Her name was Ryan Reed. And she was watching an interview. I'm talking to the camera, and she noticed a lump on my neck, just from the TV screen. So
Thank God for HD.
Yeah, high definition, huh? So I get an email from the production company, hi, I'm a nurse, you should go get this checked out. Normally, I probably would have blown it off, but I knew something was wrong with my neck because I was clearing my throat all the time, and I felt pressure. And I went to my normal doctor twice, and both times he blew it off and said it was nothing. He gave me nose spray. So anyways, I listened to the doctor, and here's one thing, and I've had a lot of medical problems. Go to multiple doctors for the same issue because they're gonna have different opinions, and that's all I have to say about that, and I promise you it's really important to do. I go to the doctor, they do a biopsy. Biopsy comes back as atypical, which means it could or it couldn't be cancer. So I'm like, okay, well, what does that mean? The doctor tells me, well, we need to go in for exploratory surgery. It's going to take 45 minutes to an hour. I said, okay, no problem. So I go into the operating table, and what happened was I was under the knife for 5 hours.
5 hours?
5 hours. They removed my entire thyroid and a bunch of lymph nodes in my neck. And then the second I woke up, this is when I came to after the surgery, I was looking up, my ex-wife was just, the tears were hitting my face. And I remember the first words that came out of my mouth were, I have cancer, don't I? And she said, yes. So I found out I had cancer by asking my ex-wife the moment I woke up from surgery.
Well, she was your wife at the time.
Yeah, my wife at the time, yes. But, yeah. So, but that was the moment I found out, because going into the surgery, I'm like, I don't have cancer. I'm 30 years old. There's no cancer. Everything's fine. And then waking up said I had a stage 3 thyroid cancer. They removed my thyroid. They removed my lymph nodes. It was a lot more serious than I thought. And because of that, I didn't trust the doctor that misdiagnosed me. So then I pulled up old medical records, and I had a testicular exam the year before, and it said irregular. And he never sent me for referral.
By the way, a lot of jokes could be inserted
I
here,
know.
but keep going.
Hey, trust me, it's hard enough telling this story, okay?
No.
You know,
No, you've been, by the way.
I'm just kidding, I'm kidding.
No, but in all seriousness, your public discussion of this is so important for people. Because most people would blow these things off, and you're effectively teaching people how to potentially save their lives. I mean, people don't understand how important it is to see multiple doctors and to trust their guts as it relates to this. Yeah. So just to keep going.
Yeah, so I completely agree with you, David. And so we found an irregular testicle exam. So I'm talking to my thyroid cancer doctor in the Kaiser building in Irvine. And last minute, they had an opening to go get an ultrasound of my area. So it was like with Kaiser, it takes you like a month to get a doctor. So I literally walked downstairs, and I'm talking to the X-ray technician.
We love Kaiser, by the way. Keep going.
Yeah, I love Kaiser too. They did great jobs on my surgeries. They did both my surgeries.
Great.
So I'm talking to the ultrasound technician. He was local. We're talking about Huntington Beach and surfing, and all of a sudden this guy got really quiet, and right away I felt nervous, and I was like, hey, what's going on? Like, what do you see? He's like, huh? I'm like, what's going on? He's like, oh, nothing. I'm like, what's going on? He's like, I'm not a doctor. I said, you got to tell me something. He goes, are you in pain? And I look at him. I'm like, what are you talking about? And then he goes, if you're in pain, looked at me right in the eyes. The emergency room is right down the hall.
It was that bad.
Yeah.
Wow.
20 minutes later, I'm talking to a doctor scheduling surgery for testicular cancer. So thyroid cancer, and then...
And this is all while you're 30 years old.
Yes. And before I even went through my treatments for the thyroid cancer, I already found out I had testicular cancer, and then we had to schedule the different cancer treatments and surgeries. And I have a young daughter, I'm new to TV. I remember the network saying, we understand, we can end the show. I said, we are not ending the show. I filmed through the whole thing. If you watch Flip or Flop, you see my weight go from 180 to 280 to 160. Like, I was all over the board, but I never gave up. And I never gave up because, you got one shot at this life, and I couldn't control the outcome, and I knew I had to do it for my kids, so I fought for them. But like anything in life, you keep your head up, you keep pushing, you get through it, so I made it.
Well, thank God.
Thank you.
Tarek, I don't know. This might be a research project for one of the analysts on my team. I don't know if anybody has ever been diagnosed with cancer by TV before, but at an absolute minimum, I hope you found that woman and helped her redecorate her house, because she definitely saved your life.
I did. Flew out to Los Angeles, took her out to dinner. We got her a big cake with big candles, almost lit myself on fire. It was so much fun.
Well, based on your acid story and electric story, that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah. More to come.
Let's jump ahead 10 years, because now I know you are 40, because you've just had your 40th birthday. Sorry, you don't look it. But we're 10 years later. Even I can subtract 40 from 30. You have evolved yourself as an individual. You've evolved yourself as a TV personality, and you've evolved yourself as a businessman. You have met the love of your life, Heather Ray Young. who is an amazing woman, also on TV on a show called Selling Sunset, in the real estate business. I'm very blessed. I have my wife, Kristen, who's sitting right next to her, who's one of the best things to ever happen to me, and looking at me nastily for bringing her up. But the reality is that you've really, really done an exceptional job over the last 10 years. What's next?
What is next? You know, I just honestly, I have a whole new outlook on life. You know, this positive, excited, energetic version of me wasn't always here. And I think going through, you know, so many years of trauma and pain and struggle has really given me gratitude for the life I have today. So now it's about giving it back and sharing with the world. I want as many people as possible to find success with real estate. I want as many people as possible to invest and increase their net worth through real estate. So I'm just on a mission to really help and teach as many people as possible how to get into the business.
It's funny because a lot of people say that type of stuff and then it ends up with an infomercial. It's the thing I love about you is you really do want to help people. Like this is like what you're really into doing. I mean, listen, I think the stories that you tell, first of all, you're so eloquent at it and you're so passionate about it that it's contagious. Second, I think that if you look at your success, it can translate into almost any business, no matter what you're doing, right? What I heard is incredibly hard work. 7:45 in the morning till 9 p.m. at night, you called everybody on every expired list. You then moved into creating a TV show out of nothing after 2 or 3, and knowing you better, it was probably not Miller Lights, but 2 or 3 probably martinis. You then drove by all the houses at night. You did everything you possibly could to be successful. And in your absolute depths, when you were at the absolute lowest point in your life, you took motivation from your children. Yep. And you put it into yourself and said, I'm not going to give up because I need to do this for them. Your hard work, your persistence, your personality, your energy are all contagious, and it is the reason you are the exceptional person that you are. Thank you for joining us today, Tarek.
Thanks, man. Thanks, guys.